Hello everybody, my name is Bigpot, aka Primoz, and today we're going to be doing another video on self-hosting after a year and a half. So, I want to talk about one of my worst experiences self-hosting something. Well, let's be honest, it was self-induced worst experience, but it was a worst experience nonetheless. So let's begin, shall we? So, what is this software that was self-hosting that was such a bad experience? Mastodon. So, yes, Mastodon is a very complex piece of software written in Ruby. So, it makes sense it would be hard to self-host, especially when doing something that isn't by default in some sort of official documentation, like what I did at the second half. So let's begin, shall we? So Mastodon is built out of multiple parts. First is its like three main pieces of software that are like make Mastodon. It's the web, which is the website you visit. It's the background process. The second is the background processing, background streaming API as it's called, which uses long-lived connections to stream things like notifications, things like called feeds and stuff like that, and Sidekick. And the third one is Sidekick-based background processing. So basically queue-style jobs it does. And then it requires two additional pieces of software: a database, Postgres, and Redis for queues and other caching related things. Now, I didn't actually talk about what Mastodon is. For those of you who do not know, Mastodon is essentially a Twitter alternative running on Fediverse. Fediverse being federated social media between multiple instances and even multiple types of software. You can put your blog onto Fediverse if you want, or even have Fediverse-based podcasts, something like Castopod. But what I'm talking about here is Mastodon. Mastodon is basically like Twitter. So, as I said, it's built of three main components I'm going to talk about: web, streaming API, and Sidekick. And web, as I said, is basically web frontend and short-lived HTTP requests. So it's again written in Ruby. It eats a lot of memory. That's my main complaint with it, because, well, it's Ruby for you. It eats a lot of memory. I don't like how it eats a lot of memory, that's for sure. But it does. It uses Puma, and the part that made me most angry with it was at one point after I did a lift and shift from my old configuration to new. In between broke the whole thing, so I didn't actually do the lift and shift and I started from scratch. Was that frontend didn't work correctly for a while. If I loaded the site normally, it didn't show any images. If I force loaded, so no caching, no nothing, it loaded images normally. I didn't understand how that worked, but at one point after tinkering, I fixed it, or it fixed itself. Maybe it was a bug in Mastodon. I don't know. I still don't know how it was fixed. Now, second piece is streaming API. This does long-lived service, long-lived HTTP requests and WebSockets for real-time updating. And it was the only part of it I actually like. It's written in Node. Maybe that's the reason I like it. Also, JavaScript So maybe that's why I like it. I don't know. Then you also have Sidekick and Sidekick based jobs. And actually, I really do like Sidekick as a concept. Problem is, it's written in Ruby, and I know a lot of people like Ruby. There are some very popular programmers who swear by it. I just don't like it's how memory inefficient it is. But that's my problem with Node as well and some other things. So yeah, standard issue for me, memory inefficiency. Because in today's era, like servers don't scale on CPU if you're doing web services. If you're doing something like Ruby, you scale on RAM, and that's pretty annoying. Because you can have like dual core and you need 16 gigs of RAM on a server, and that seems overkill on RAM, but it is, sadly. So, and now we're talking about background processing, and Sidekick uses many tasks like pulling posts from other instances on Fediverse, other Fediverse programs, really. So it has 6 different queues. So Sidekick works from queues. So you have X number of queues, you pull jobs from, Sidekick pulls program and executes them. So it has 6 queues: default, push, ingress, mailers, pull, and scheduler, or scheduler, however you want to say it. Default is one you should prioritize most because it does local use stuff. Push delivers payloads to other servers, to other instances. Ingress does incoming remote activities. It has lower priority, or should have lower priority, so that users can still see local posts, even if they don't see remote ones. Mailers is standard mail stuff, so it ensures delivery of emails, so it sends out emails. Pull is one of the lowest priority tasks. It does handling imports, backups, resolving threads, and so on. But the one that I have most issue with is scheduler. You know how I want to say it. It handles cron jobs such as refreshing hashtags, trends, cleaning up logs, and messing up your system. What do you mean by that? So no, that's not part of its normal operation. But as I say on their scaling website, on the page for scaling Mastodon, you may run as many Sidekick processes with as many threads as necessary for efficiently processing running jobs. However, the scheduler queue should never be running more than one Sidekick process at a time. No, so back to me, no more quoting. It can really mess up your system. And yeah, don't run Sidekick scheduler twice. So 2 processes. And that's one of the mistakes I did, among others, that required me to basically go and move my system to another, to just start from scratch, delete, send to every system on every instance on Fediverse that my server is going down, and then rebuilding it from scratch. Another one, there are a couple of others. One of them was updates, I think, and bad database. Bad database in combination with updates and not reading change logs. Yeah, that also happened. As I said, it was totally my fault. Yeah. And then I also did a scheduler twice because I was doing some random testing, even though I knew that I shouldn't be putting scheduler twice, but I was putting all the other stuff, and just accidentally I when I was doing changes on Docker file or Docker Compose file, and the replicas I did 2 instead of 1. And certain things broke. So I'm I just didn't bother fixing because I also had issues with the new version of Mastodon. Yay, yay, bad database, which I should have actually known how to move or migrate, but I didn't because I didn't read changelog. Yes. Facepalm. A major one. Self-induced. Bad time. So yeah, read changelogs. If you don't learn anything else from this video, please read changelogs if you're updating software, because databases change and you need to do migrations. But then again, even better thing you should learn if you're programming this stuff. If you have Docker containers like I use, or pod or OCI containers, sure, migrations are run when you start a new instance, start a new system. Please run migrations if you can before you even start. And if you have Kubernetes as a deployment target, be smart and do a init container, or like not be smart, but please do a init container that does migrations by itself before it even starts that container. That's a nice way of doing it. But then again, if you're doing internal software, you already know the procedures. I was assuming it will do it itself, honestly. So by the time I actually found out what was happening, I was already halfway deleting my instance. Because I was like, I broke something. I was honestly thinking I broke something. So there are also other components to Mastodon. So another thing that caused me issues the first time around, because I didn't know what I was doing, is object storage. So while it is not mandatory to have object storage, like you need to have a database or Redis, you can have an object storage instead of storing things locally. But if you store things locally, you would think that you would either it would the thing that it cached, so it does partially it's for caching reasons, and partially it's for your like profile picture and stuff like that. So you would think that cache would be repulled, right? And local things, it would know that it was local and it would route properly. Yeah, forget it. Even cache doesn't work correctly if you just move, like lift and shift. You have to take those local things and push them into cloud, onto your object storage, and then hope it works. Yeah, it didn't work for me the first time. I had to clean the cache, which if the files weren't in object storage didn't work. I had to clean the cache and then hope things cached correctly again. Some things never worked correctly with caching again. Now that works better. I've seen that problem with other software as well, so yeah. That's not that new to me now, but was back then. I started hosting my own instance. At the time, Twitter was going, everybody moved to Mastodon. So I decided to self-host my own instance. Okay, so now for the moment, how I managed to, why it was so bad when I tried to move to the new cluster, a new set of machines. The whole lift and shift that wasn't lift and shift. Yeah, lift and shift is a very Silicon Valley term. Well, I moved from what is essentially Docker Compose to Kubernetes cluster, and while there is a Helm chart, I couldn't get it to work. So I wrote my own kubectl YAML files, YAML manifests, and yeah, I managed to break things, but thankfully not too badly. So certain things I could have moved like all the instance without a problem. Like those background jobs, they can run anywhere. Same with database and Redis. You can move them without a problem. But then issue came when I moved. When I actually if I moved, that was like the plan. Move those. That's why I was testing things with replicas. But then, when everything broke, I decided to just start anew. I deployed a new instance. Everything worked fine until it didn't. I broke things on the reverse proxy end, or in Kubernetes case, ingress end. Then I broke things on. So, what broke was front end the second time. So if I loaded things, nothing showed. If I force loaded, everything showed. And I could post things, which I couldn't do if I just normal loaded. Fun things. I played around with things and then suddenly it worked. Maybe it was fixed by Mastodon people. Maybe it was fixed by me by doing things that I don't really know what I was doing. Sometimes even that happens. But honestly, since then it was a pretty well behaved instance. I actually do really like it. Now, would I recommend you to run Mastodon yourself? I cannot say yes or no. Like, I can say you shouldn't run it if you aren't interested in self-hosting. Sure, but would that be the right thing to say? Yeah and no. I personally, if you're interested in self-hosting things, yeah, definitely go for it. It's an interesting problem to solve, since it's actually a really complex piece of software and good to self-host. But if you just wanna have your own instance, unless you don't plan, I don't know, why would you do it? Unless you really wanna do it. Again, I cannot tell you yes and no definitively because it all depends on what you wanna do. This is really hard for me to say yes and no. I would love to say yes, I have to say no, because that would make my job easier, honestly. But I don't know. But if you do decide to self-host it, maybe what I told you in this video would make your life easier. And I hope it does. Now, in the next self-hosting video, I'm gonna talk about my next worst experience self-hosting things. Yeah, I have a few of those these days. Again, move to Kubernetes might not have been a best idea, but yeah. Kubernetes is simple, not complex. Check that video in the description down below or on my channel where I talk about why Kubernetes is simple, not complex. With a horrible most of the video example. But since I decided to go Kubernetes, I actually do enjoy it. Like, it made some things simpler for me, but some things much harder. And that second worst experience I had is Matrix, another this kind of self-hosting that is this kind of a thing. And yeah, it isn't the best kind of experience, honestly. But it will have to wait, because I still haven't figured out how to make it work. So it's kind of pointless to have this kind of video. But when I do, I'll talk about it. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, Even if you tell me I'm an idiot, because yeah, I know I am. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Yeah, don't make such mistakes I do.